Long before the hum of a server room or the glow of a screen, the idea of a computer existed as a flicker in the human imagination. It was a profound and persistent dream, a desire to create a machine that could think, calculate, and reason. This was not born from a need for entertainment or communication, but from a fundamental human quest to understand and order the universe. Early astronomers, mathematicians, and philosophers, gazing at the stars or pondering the mysteries of numbers, longed for a tool to lighten their mental load. They envisioned mechanical aids that could perform the tedious, repetitive calculations that were the bedrock of their discoveries, freeing their minds for higher, more creative pursuits. The concept was not a single flash of inspiration, it was a slow, burning ember, stoked by centuries of intellectual curiosity. Ancient civilizations developed the abacus, a simple yet elegant device for arithmetic, which stands as a testament to this early ambition. It was, in its own way, a form of data storage and processing. Later in the 17th century, brilliant minds like Blaise Pascal and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz built mechanical calculators. These were marvelous contraptions of gears and levers designed to add, subtract, and multiply. They were the first tangible steps towards automating thought, proving that complex logical processes could in fact be embedded within the mechanics of a machine. These early pioneers were driven by a shared vision. They saw the limitations of the human mind when faced with overwhelming calculations, such as those needed for nautical charts or astronomical tables. A single error could lead a ship astray or invalidate years of observation. The dream was for a machine that was not only fast but also infallible, a perfect and tireless servant of logic. This quest was less about technology and more about a philosophical desire for certainty and precision. It was an attempt to capture the elegant, predictable laws of the universe and replicate them in brass and iron, creating a small mechanical echo of cosmic order. And so the stage was set. The idea of a computing machine was no longer a fantastical notion, but a tangible engineering challenge. The seeds of this revolution were sown not in silicon, but in the fertile ground of human intellect, watered by the timeless desire to compute, to understand, and to create. This journey from a simple thought to the complex digital world we inhabit today is one of the most remarkable stories of human ingenuity. It is a tale of how an abstract dream was painstakingly translated, gear by gear, and then switch by switch, into a reality that has profoundly reshaped our planet and our very existence. Our story takes an astonishing turn as we look back over 2,000 years. In the deep, quiet waters off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, divers in the year 1901 made a discovery that would challenge our understanding of ancient technology. Amongst the remnants of a Roman-era shipwreck, they found a lump of corroded bronze. It was initially overlooked, appearing as little more than a piece of rock. However, as the layers of time were carefully peeled away, a device of extraordinary complexity was revealed. This was the Antikythera mechanism, an object so advanced that its existence seemed almost impossible for its time. It was an ancient analog computer. This remarkable device was a clockwork model of the cosmos. Its intricate system of at least 30 bronze gears was designed to predict the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks. It could forecast eclipses with remarkable accuracy and even indicated the timing of the ancient Olympic Games. The sheer sophistication of its engineering was unlike anything else recovered from antiquity. The gears were cut with a precision that would not be seen again for over 1,000 years, suggesting a deep and hidden history of mechanical knowledge that has since been lost to the ages. It was a portable universe, a mechanical brain built to decode the heavens. The existence of the Antikythera mechanism forces us to reconsider the narrative of technological progress. We often see history as a simple, linear path, but this ancient computer tells a different story. It suggests that the ancient world possessed a level of mechanical genius far greater than we ever imagined. It is a ghost from the past, a silent testament to a forgotten branch of human innovation. Why this technology did not flourish and why it seemingly vanished for a millennium remains one of history's most profound mysteries. It is as if a single brilliant flame of ingenuity flickered into life, only to be extinguished by the turning tides of history, leaving us to wonder what might have been. This single artifact serves as a powerful prologue to the story of computing. It demonstrates that the desire to model and predict the world through mechanical means is an ancient human impulse. The Antikythera mechanism was not powered by electricity, nor did it run on code, but it embodied the fundamental principles of computing. Input, the turning of a crank; processing, the movement of gears; and output, the display of celestial positions. It is a humbling reminder that our modern digital age is built upon foundations laid by unknown geniuses who, millennia ago, dared to capture the intricate dance of the cosmos in a box of bronze. We now leap forward in time to the steam-powered world of 19th century London, a place of immense industrial change and intellectual ferment. Here we meet a figure of towering intellect, a man named Charles Babbage. He was a mathematician, a philosopher, and an inventor, and he was utterly obsessed with the idea of a machine that could eliminate human error from mathematical tables. In 1822, he began to design his difference engine, a colossal mechanical calculator intended to automate the production of polynomial functions. It was a grand vision, a mountain of brass and pewter gears designed to compute with unwavering precision. A mechanical marvel for a mechanical age. Babbage's ambition, however, did not stop there. While the difference engine was designed for one specific task, his mind raced ahead to something far more revolutionary. He conceived of a new machine, the analytical engine. This was not merely a calculator, it was a general-purpose computer. It had all the essential components of a modern device. Media group, close-up of mechanical gears labeled as MIL, Victorian-era CPU concept model, analytical engine processing unit replica at stock at distribute_equally, a MIL for processing, essentially the CPU, a store for holding numbers, which is the memory, a reader for input using a punch card system, and a printer for output. This was a breathtaking leap of imagination, the first complete design for a programmable computer, conceived a full century before the technology existed to build it. It was in this intellectual landscape that Babbage collaborated with a truly remarkable individual, Augusta Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. The daughter of the poet Lord Byron, Ada Lovelace was a gifted mathematician who saw the profound potential of Babbage's work. She was not merely his assistant, she was his intellectual peer. While translating a paper on the analytical engine, she added her own extensive notes, which were 3 times longer than the original text. In these notes, she articulated a concept that even Babbage himself had not fully grasped. She realized the machine could do more than just manipulate numbers. Lovelace envisioned that if the engine could process numbers representing other things, such as musical notes or letters of the alphabet, it could create music or art. She wrote what is now recognized as the world's first computer program, an algorithm designed to be processed by the analytical engine to compute a sequence of Bernoulli numbers. For this, she is celebrated today as the first computer programmer. Together, Babbage the architect and Lovelace the prophetess laid the conceptual foundations of the digital age. Their work, though never fully realized in their lifetime, was a blueprint for the future, a Victorian dream of a world transformed by the power of computation. The theoretical seeds planted by Babbage and Lovelace lay dormant for nearly a century. It took the crucible of the Second World War to accelerate the transition from mechanical gears to electronic circuits. In the secretive world of Bletchley Park, Britain's code-breaking centre, a team of brilliant minds was locked in a desperate battle against the German military's sophisticated encryption machines. To break the formidable Lorentz cipher used by the German High Command, a telephone engineer named Tommy Flowers led the design and construction of a machine named Colossus. It was the world's first programmable electronic digital computer. Colossus was a behemoth. It used over 1,500 vacuum tubes, which functioned as electronic switches to perform its logical operations. Switched on for the first time in 1944, it was not a general-purpose computer like Babbage's design. It was built for a single vital task: to perform statistical analysis on intercepted German messages at incredible speed, dramatically shortening the time needed to decipher them. The existence of Colossus and its 10 successors was one of the war's most closely guarded secrets. Their work was so sensitive that all the machines and their blueprints were ordered to be destroyed after the war, and those who operated them were sworn to secrecy for decades, their pivotal role in history hidden from view. Across the Atlantic, a parallel evolution was taking place. At the University of Pennsylvania, John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert were building their own electronic giant, the Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, or ENIAC. Unveiled to the public in 1946, ENIAC was a true monster of a machine. It weighed nearly 30 tons, occupied a massive room, and contained over 17,000 vacuum tubes. Its purpose was to calculate artillery firing tables for the US Army. When it was running, it consumed so much power that it was rumored to dim the lights of Philadelphia. Programming ENIAC was a grueling physical task, involving the manual replugging of cables and setting of switches, a process that could take days. Despite its unwieldy nature, ENIAC was a landmark achievement. It was the first electronic general-purpose computer capable of being reprogrammed to solve a wide range of computing problems. It operated 1,000 times faster than the electromechanical machines that preceded it, completing in just 2 hours a calculation that would have taken a human 100 years. The immense heat from its thousands of vacuum tubes meant that tube failures were a constant problem. A fascinating fact is that the majority of the programmers for ENIAC were women skilled mathematicians whose crucial contributions were often overlooked in the historical accounts of the era. These colossal machines marked the true birth of electronic computing, proving that complex calculations could be performed at speeds previously unimaginable. The era of the room-sized computer, with its voracious appetite for power and its unreliable vacuum tubes, was destined to be short-lived. A revolution in miniature was about to begin. In 1947, at Bell Labs in New Jersey, 3 physicists, John Bardeen, Walter Brattain, and William Shockley, created one of the most important inventions of the 20th century, the transistor. This tiny, solid-state device could do everything a vacuum tube could do. It could act as a switch or an amplifier, but it was drastically smaller, more reliable, consumed far less power, and generated much less heat. The transistor was the key that would unlock the door to smaller, faster, and more affordable computers. The invention of the transistor immediately changed the landscape of electronics. Computers that once filled entire rooms could now, in theory, be shrunk to the size of a few filing cabinets. This led to the development of the so-called second generation of computers in the 1950s and early 1960s. These machines were built for large corporations, universities, and government agencies. They were still expensive and required specialist staff to operate, but they were a significant step forward. The transistor made computing more practical and reliable, allowing these machines to perform complex calculations for everything from census data processing to scientific research and space exploration. The next great leap came less than a decade later. While transistors were a huge improvement, computers still required thousands of them to be wired together by hand, a complex and painstaking process. The breakthrough came from 2 engineers working independently, Jack Kilby at Texas Instruments and Robert Noyce at Fairchild Semiconductor. In 1958 and 1959, they both conceived of a way to put all the components of an electronic circuit, transistors, resistors, capacitors, onto a single monolithic piece of semiconductor material. This was the integrated circuit, or the microchip. It was a monumental invention that would pave the way for true miniaturization. The microchip was the ultimate expression of this shrinking process. It allowed for the creation of circuits that were not only smaller and faster, but also cheaper to mass produce. What once required a room full of vacuum tubes could now be etched onto a tiny sliver of silicon no bigger than a fingernail. This exponential increase in power and decrease in size was famously observed by Gordon Moore, a co-founder of Fairchild and later Intel. His prediction, now known as Moore's Law, stated that the number of transistors on a microchip would roughly double every 2 years. This relentless, predictable march of progress has driven the digital revolution for over half a century, making computers smaller, more powerful, and more accessible than anyone could have imagined. For decades, computers remained the exclusive domain of large institutions. They were powerful but remote, mysterious machines housed in air-conditioned rooms, accessible only to a priesthood of trained technicians. The idea of an individual owning a computer was as fanciful as owning a private power station. However, the relentless progress of the microchip was about to change everything. In the 1970s, a new culture of hobbyists and electronics enthusiasts began to emerge. These were tinkerers and visionaries who saw the potential for a computer that belonged not to a corporation but to a person. They dreamed of a machine that could sit on a desk at home. This dream began to take shape with the arrival of the first microprocessors, which were essentially an entire computer's central processing unit on a single chip. In 1975, a company called MITS advertised the Altair 8800, a build-it-yourself computer kit, on the cover of Popular Electronics magazine. It was little more than a box with switches and flashing lights, and it had no screen or keyboard. Yet it ignited a fire. Thousands of kits were sold to hobbyists who were thrilled by the prospect of building and programming their own computer. It was a machine that did very little, but it represented a monumental shift in thinking. Computing was becoming personal. Among those inspired by the Altair were two young friends from California, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Wozniak, a brilliant self-taught engineer, designed a more user-friendly computer, which he called the Apple I. It came as a pre-assembled circuit board, a significant improvement over the Altair kit. Jobs, the visionary marketer, saw its potential and convinced Wozniak to start a company to sell it. In 1977, they followed up with the Apple II, a landmark machine. It came in a friendly plastic case, had a built-in keyboard, and could display color graphics on a television screen. It was a complete, ready-to-use personal computer designed not just for hobbyists, but for everyone. The launch of the Apple II, along with other machines like the Commodore PET and the Tandy TRS-80, heralded the dawn of the personal computer revolution. Suddenly, computers were no longer intimidating behemoths. They were accessible tools for small businesses, schools, and homes. They were used for word processing, managing finances, and playing games. This revolution was not just about technology, it was about empowerment. It placed the immense power of computing directly into the hands of individuals, democratizing information and unleashing a wave of creativity and innovation that would fundamentally reshape society from the ground up. The prophecy of a machine for every desk was becoming a reality. By the 1980s, personal computers were becoming increasingly common, but they were largely isolated islands of information. Each machine contained its own data, and sharing it meant physically transferring it on a floppy disk. The next great evolutionary step was to connect these islands, to create a network that would allow them to communicate with one another. The technical foundations for this had been laid decades earlier with ARPANET, a United States military project, which established the basic protocols for a robust, decentralized computer network. This technology, known as the Internet, was primarily used by academics and researchers to share data and send messages. For the average person, however, this network was inaccessible and complex. It lacked a friendly face. This all changed in 1989 at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Switzerland. A British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee was trying to solve a problem: how to help thousands of international researchers share their findings easily. He envisioned a system of information management that used hypertext, text that could contain links to other documents. This would allow users to jump seamlessly from one piece of information to another, creating a vast interconnected web of knowledge. He called his invention the World Wide Web. To make his vision a reality, Berners-Lee created three fundamental technologies that remain the bedrock of the web today. First, he developed HTML, or hypertext markup language, a simple language for creating web pages. Second, he created the URL, or Uniform Resource Locator, a unique address for each document on the web. And third, he wrote the first web browser, a piece of software that could retrieve and display these documents, and the first web server to host them. Crucially, Berners-Lee and CERN made the decision to release this technology to the world for free, without patents or royalties. This act of extraordinary generosity ensured that the web could grow organically and universally. The impact was explosive. In 1993, the release of the Mosaic web browser, the first to display images alongside text and to be easily installed on home computers, opened the floodgates. Suddenly, the internet was no longer a text-based realm for specialists. It was a vibrant, graphical medium for everyone. The number of websites grew exponentially from a handful in the early 90s to millions by the end of the decade. The World Wide Web transformed the personal computer from a standalone tool for calculation and creation into a portal to a global repository of information, communication, and commerce. The isolated digital islands had been connected, forming a new, sprawling digital continent. The story of the computer has been a relentless journey of miniaturization and accessibility. From room-sized mainframes to desktop machines, the goal was always to bring computing power closer to the individual. The early 21st century witnessed the next logical and perhaps most profound step in this journey. The computer untethered itself from the desk and slipped neatly into our pockets. This was the dawn of the mobile computing era. It was not simply about making computers smaller. It was about making them perpetually connected and contextually aware, weaving them seamlessly into the very fabric of our daily movements and interactions. The seeds of this revolution were sown with the development of personal digital assistants, or PDAs, and early smartphones in the 1990s and 2000s. These devices combined the functions of a calendar, address book, and notepad with the ability to make calls and send rudimentary emails. They were promising, but often clumsy and difficult to use. The true turning point came in 2007 when Apple introduced the iPhone. It was not the first smartphone, but it was the first to combine a powerful operating system, a revolutionary multi-touch interface, and seamless internet connectivity into a single, elegant device that was a joy to use. The iPhone and the wave of Android devices that followed fundamentally changed our relationship with computers and the internet. The concept of going online became obsolete because we were always online. The introduction of the App Store created a new ecosystem, allowing developers from all over the world to create specialized software, apps for millions of users. The computer was no longer just a tool for work or a portal for information. It became a personal assistant, a navigator, a camera, a music player, and a gateway to our social lives. It was a sensory extension of ourselves, equipped with GPS, accelerometers, and high-resolution cameras. This shift to mobile computing has had staggering consequences. It has connected billions more people to the internet, especially in developing nations where a mobile phone is often the first and only computer an individual will own. It has given rise to entirely new industries, from ride-sharing services to mobile banking, that are built around the assumption of a connected computer in every pocket. Our lives are now mediated through these small, glowing rectangles. They guide us through unfamiliar cities, allow us to capture and share moments instantly, and provide a constant stream of information and entertainment. The computer is no longer a destination we visit. It is a constant companion on our journey through life. We have journeyed from an ancient Greek dream to the silicon heart of the modern world. Today, the computer is no longer a discrete object sitting on a desk or even in a pocket. It has become ubiquitous, dissolving into the background of our environment. Microprocessors, the descendants of Babbage's analytical engine and Noyce's microchip, are now embedded in almost every facet of our existence. They are in our cars, our kitchen appliances, our televisions, and our children's toys. This pervasive network of connected devices, often called the Internet of Things, represents the next great phase of the computer's evolution, an era of ambient intelligence. The impact of this computational saturation is profound and multifaceted. It has revolutionized industries from medicine, where computers model diseases and assist in surgery, to science, where supercomputers simulate the climate and the cosmos. It has transformed our economies, creating a global digital marketplace that operates 24 hours a day. Communication has become instantaneous and global, allowing for social movements to organize and for families to stay connected across continents. The sum of human knowledge, once locked away in libraries, is now accessible to anyone with a connection, representing the most significant democratization of information in history. However, this deep integration also presents new and complex challenges for our species. Questions of privacy, data security, and the ethical implications of artificial intelligence are now at the forefront of societal debate. The very nature of work is changing as automation and AI begin to perform tasks once thought to be exclusively human. We must navigate the risks of misinformation spreading rapidly through social networks and address the digital divide that separates those with access to this technology from those without. Our relationship with these powerful tools requires constant negotiation, wisdom, and foresight. As we stand here on the 20th of June 2025, the evolution of the computer is far from over. We are on the cusp of new frontiers such as quantum computing, which promises to solve problems currently intractable, and brain-computer interfaces, which could redefine what it means to be human. The journey that began with a dream of a calculating machine has led us to a world where computation is woven into the very fabric of reality. The story of the computer is ultimately the story of humanity's quest to understand, to connect, and to create. And this extraordinary world-altering story is still being written